All right. So I think the 17 seconds is over, right? I think it's over. All right, so let's get started. So, first of all, I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Pages on Stages. Give it up for yourself. Yeah. Thank you for coming. So, if you don't know, Pages on Stages is the open mic here at the Sims Library of Poetry. And one thing that we champion is poets who put their work on pages, as in they publish books. And then we also champion poets who bring their poetry to the stage. Some people think these are like two separate groups, two people who don't kick it with each other, two people who hate on each other. But in CLI, right, our job is to combine these two, right, to bring your pages to the stage. And so that's why we call our mic Pages on Stages. And so in addition just to having some fantastic people in the room, so many people in this room have published poetry. Raise your hand if you have published a poem, a book, a literary magazine, right? So all these people are rich, okay? They publish poetry, right? So clearly they're balling out of control, just giving away hot tubs, right? That's what we're doing tonight. At the end of the show, we're giving away another hot tub at the end of Pages on Stages.
A jacuzzi for your apartment.
Right. So one of the things that we are, every month when we do Pages on Stages, we feature either a class or a group of people. And so tonight, we are celebrating the employees of CLI. Give it up for them, right? And so we're calling it Poets on the Payroll. Poets on the Payroll. I know you saw it on the flyer. So we're celebrating poets with jobs. And one of the incredible things about CLI is that I take this back. I didn't think that someone who was in love with poetry could also do accounting, could also do marketing, could also organize a spreadsheet. But it is true, right? Talk to my man Andy right here. This guy can work magic on Excel, So poets are artists and they have many, many, many different talents. And so almost everybody that works for CLI, no matter what they do, can also write poetry. And you're going to hear that tonight. You're going to see that tonight. So many of the people who work from CLI, for CLI, actually came out of the classes. And so the teachers that we have here, the TAs we have, the staff that we have, all of them, connected in some way to the work that we do. And so, there's one other thing that I just want to acknowledge, and that is the ways in which our staff has grown. The first staff member in CLI was me, and I was working alone. And then the first person who decided they wanted to help was a poet named Mo Piquette Haynes. And she published a book called Born to Waltz. She worked for free. She was not on the payroll, like so many of you here tonight. But I think probably then later on came Nadia Hunter Bay, and she helped me with World Stage Press every Wednesday at the World Stage for 2 hours. But I actually think the first person to get paid was actually Kamari Carter Hawkins. I think she was the first employee that we had. And so Kamari, I think she's on Zoom right now, right?
Yep.
And so, hey Kamari, I'm not going to talk mess about you because you're listening from Texas. But I'm going to tell you, just before we get to the poetry, I just want to tell you about one thing that happened that I thought was good. So Kamari did so many jobs. She was doing administration for the publishing classes. She was running World Stage Press, and she used to call herself the octopus lady because she had 8 to 9 different jobs. And so So I took that to heart, and so I read this book called The E-Myth by Michael E. Gerber, and which teaches you how to build a team. And so from that time to now, we had Kamari, who was like an incredible, visionary, talented person who was doing all these jobs. And today, CLI has 40 people working for it. 40 different people. Employees, work-study students, volunteers, people who put their shoulder to the wheel to help the publishing classes, World Stage Press, and the Sims Library of Poetry. And so, since Kamari was the first paid employee, I want to see if she can go first. So, let's see.
I'm so proud of how far CLI has come, and I am just grateful to see the evolution of it, and I just wish it all the best forever and ever and ever, amen. So I will not be before you long. I have one poem for you I will share with you. 40 people is awesome. This poem is entitled, Poets Save My Life. What happens when all your friends are poets? Every conversation is a prayer. We speak what we want in similes, write wishful words on paper, insist you do the same. We have our own language, speak in tongues, metaphor my dreams to life. When I lost my baby, it was poets who rescued me. Dripped poems from their mouths, sonnet my sadness to sunshine, sat, held my hand, lamented with me, lyricked love back in my womb. When I witnessed my grandmother, my best friend, gasp for her last breath, when death trauma licked my ears at night, when PTSD riddled me anxious and unrecognizable, it was the poets who orbited and wrote me odes, reminded me of why I was needed here on this side of life. Poets fed me red beans and rhyme, banana pudding and ballads, spaghetti and elegies. Poets showed up to my house when it was unclean, when birds made a home in my hair, when my eyes took proxy for my mouth. Poets are the only people I know who ain't afraid of the dark. They make peace with it. They bring other poets along on a search party, find you, sit with you. Who else do that? I think it's therapists who need poets on payroll. Poets epigrammed my heart back to life every time. Thank you.
So now I get to my poem. My poem is dedicated to my mother, and it's called Red. Her color was red for certain things. Nothing, not everything. Not because it was her favorite. Green was her favorite. Not because we buried her in a red dress, wearing one of her favorite navy church hats. Not because it was her chosen shade of lipstick. Not because she painted her fingers that color. She was feminine, but rarely wore nail polish. Her 3 daughters were just like her in that respect, but her husband did polish his nails, clear polish. So men doing that is not new, only the colors are. Their only brother, their only son, never. Her color was red, not because she loved to see things and people bleed, never insisted on matching tees or outfits in red, never bought an SUV in crimson red, never had those kind of desperate needs. Her family always got the bandages first. But she needed roses, red American beauties, no other color, and she insisted on writing her checks out in memorable red ink. In curly Q cursive handwriting I always loved. Red was my mother's color then. Mom had a fortress of big pens with red ink. Dad worked sometimes 2 jobs while Mom paid all of our bills in red ink. Sometimes right before saying the proverbial red. When they both died in 2005, their attic was filled with their paper monuments, including canceled checks. We could finally shred, but I kept some. Mom and Dad died in the black. Mortgages, too, were paid in full by then. Money in the bank to give to their 4 adult children. Thankful there was no red at the end, except for Mom's bright red dress, funeral roses, and some of her big pins. Wow.
Thank you, Marlena. Thank you, Marlena. Excellent poem. All right, so we have one more person in Zoom land who's about to grace the mic. DJ Sally Mae, who was it?
Miss Zaney.
Miss Zaney, coming live from Austin, Texas. Give it up for Miss Zaney on the mic.
Greetings, everybody. This poem that I am going to read for you this evening is called Chant for Change, and a little bit about it. I used to be a Nichiren Daishonin Buddhist, and this is pretty much just my exit to the left poem for them. I've learned a whole lot, and yet decided after nearly 10 years to leave my practice. I remember going to Gohanzen to chant for change. In order to rearrange the shit that was coming from left to right, sometimes out of sight, and I tried with all of my might to adapt. Adapt to the disrespect, adapt to the incorrect, adapt to the misconception, until I broke down and went shouting, "Why in the hell is this happening to me?" The universe replied, "Don't you see us, sweetie? Life is shifty. If you're not present or mindful for when the veil lifts, you'll be stuck with shitty thoughts, words, and deeds until you beg and plead again, holding out your hand for change. It doesn't grow on trees. It can flow with ease. Don't get on those knees to say, pretty please. Change comes suddenly or ever so swiftly. Yet if you picked me, I promised I would see. Be careful what you chant for. If you're not centered when chanting for more, it'll greet you with a smack before you leave that front door. In peace."
Thank you, Ms. Zaney, all the way from Austin, Texas. And then we had Marlena coming to us from Arizona. Okay, all right. There's one more. All right, we got one more coming to us in Zoom land. DJ Sally Mae, who's on the Zoom mic?
Maestro. The real name.
You said Maestro?
Maestro.
All right, give it up for Maestro. Please clap for Maestro. It's Maestro Gaming. Hey!
Hey,
We know you.
Hope everyone's well and safe. And wow, amazing poetry, amazing writing. It's really what I need right now. And I'm sure all of us. So yeah, good to see everyone. I'll just get into it really quick. Why you'll never be the one to save me. You're only mad because you stole it and you still couldn't make it yours. It ain't that hard to figure out now. All this time and death on our back, like a lesson that stays in the blood, can't separate itself from skin. Now my kids' grandsons feel the 400-year-old side-eye watching death fan itself in the shade. Whoever heard of slave owners killing natives for the rights to be free to kill more natives? Dissonance responds like some shameful condensation, hypocrisy. Free men may one day save themselves based on the words from whispered field lips of chained man parts praying devil image spirits to live freer in the next life. But more money in the cotton sack bless folks in only one direction, yet a whole group pulling out their own tongues, rearing mute children stay living. That may be enough to think something else had our back besides Satan in the dead dance, knowing that walking on water is an old damn lie. My great-great-great-grand-auntie still make the wind blow over me on a hot day. You wouldn't even let me in the church, but let the church set up shop. Use God as a whole excuse to dress Satan up for the board meeting, dealing death for corporation, afterlife, institution, suit and tie. The bullshit's still going on, burping up treaties and the old bones you couldn't swallow and all the buffalo you ate today in a starve campaign embargo. America yelling at me ugly when I even think about feeling comfortable enough to walk in the house wearing all my joy, let alone hold conversation with the demon was that put it there while speaking in my outside voice by myself, afraid someone might hear me. Tarnished boots sprout colony banners reminding me blood in the dirt don't make it mine. No, sir. I can tell by the way they stand on the ground which side the grass allowed to grow on, even if I'm pushing up daisies, claiming the high ground, knowing whether he do or don't. I'm gonna take 2 steps to nowhere, right where they need me, begging to make every truth their jurisdiction, every death of mine their own private war to liberate, for their own struggle to seek a sacred sometime, for their hate to mean the same thing as pride again, for the babies they fed the currents of dinosaurs to mean poverty, for the men sitting for lifetimes to mean rehabilitation, for the next one killed before even getting started to mean cautionary. I know even a monster project what scares them and then kills everything to keep from knowing they're the monster. I promise to love y'all more than your mistakes and say wrong ain't something else. Know that everything you feel, they try hard to be comfortable enough like it fell out their mouth first. Know that every time we celebrated life, they joined in life while life was taken from us. Know that even right now, there are whole missions to not remember and even more missions to forgive. And yet anger still spring weeds in season every Juneteenth like fresh lawn, cigar mouth, Rick Mandarin for their friend Jerry, chicken in every pot, talking about the good old days. That's how come I know you'll never be the ones that save me. Because to do that, you got to save you from yourself. And that ain't country, social club, money, class, value, steward, making hypocritical political base or rancid enough to foment fear, spread like spore tip anglovirus in a garden of wet paint, self-appointed rosebush, Karen crabgrass. You'll never be the ones to cry my life like a broken promise to every auntie I ever had.
Wow. Nice Joe Gavin. Please put your hands together for Carlos Ornelas, the current press manager for World Stage Press.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello. My style has a style of its own.
Yeah.
Violin and cello concertos from Rome. Underground rap instrumental mementos, Marlboro menthos, pints of Merlot. My style has a style of its own. Sylvia, Virginia, Maya, and Zora. Gertrude, Selena, Xochitl, and Dora. Anna, Joanna, Wendy, Simone. Sade, Alicia, Rocio, Bjork. It's not me who has acted alone. My style has a style of its own. Initial and belt buckle, black cotton chrome. Picasso's approach, Da Vinci's brush strokes. Chacas, aerosol spray can control. Soledad, tacas, Delano, placazos, graffiti, and brothels in Carl's Jr. restrooms. Freehand insignia, street gang regalia. Tupac and Williams, Shakurian, Shakespearean. Irvin Johnson, magician, Gretzky, Banksy edition. Beastie Boys, Wu-Tang, Lil Wu Bang, Wolfgang. Motel 6's, Marriott's, Hilton's. Gardens in Paradise, Lost's, John Milton's. Slaves, Repentance, Independence. German Shepherds, Chihuahuenses. New America's Dependence. Wetback Witnesses, Jehovah's Home. My style has a style of its own. Smith & Wesson, Glocks and Colts, Nuts and Bolts, Shocks and Bolts, Peace and Harmonies, Revolts. Faders, Buttons and Remotes. Pink Floyd, Doors, Ramones and Stones. Guns and Roses, Broken Bones, Broken Hearts and Broken Homes. Broken Promises galore. Like the shit became couture. My style has a style of its own.
Come on.
There you go. Our heroes have failed us. If our gods worked for the government, Instead of prayers, we would submit petitions for heavens to help us. God would have created the world in 7 business days. Every 4 millennia, humanity would elect its new Lord and Savior. People would hold signs that say, Catholics for Christ, Muhammad for vice, choose Jesus, Allah can't lose. We're the welfare children of Captain America, adopted by Dr. Doom. Our heroes have failed us. They've taken the credit for crosses that nailed us. They act as if patriots just to befriend us. Then they enslave us, sell us, or shelve us. If our gods worked for the government, heaven would allow only national citizens. All others considered illegal spirits. Guardian angels, national guards, label our world as a paradise lost. Instead of gods and guns, we would trust and wear an M16 instead of a cross. If our gods worked for the government, every tax season would be an apocalypse. Instead of St. Peter, George Stephanopoulos, Monica Lewinsky, the new Mary Magdalene. Abortions instead of conceptions, immaculate. If our gods worked for the government, committing sins would lead to fines and up to 2 years in purgatory. And if you wanted to repent, you would need to hire a patron saint to plead in our defense. If our gods worked for the government, a miracle is something only the rich could afford. And for the sick and the poor, government assistance such as food stamps, healthcare, and welfare would be replaced by prayer. And all things biased would finally be fair. But in reality, our governments don't work because God does not work for the government. May heaven help us. Our heroes have failed us.
I'm scared to love you. My heart is scarred with stitches in it hanging on life support. One more break and it might just be damaged forever. Might not even make it. Not even surgery could repair the damage of its arteries. Fragile, beautiful soul tainted by non-so-beautiful souls. Whispers, literally sweet nothings to my heart that penetrated to my ears. I'm scared to love you. I mean, really love you. Nowadays, what is love anyways? Its true purpose amongst 2 people has seemed to really lose its identity. I'm scared to love you. I'm always trying to find any excuse to break it off, any opportunity to not stay because I'm scared to love you. It's easier to just cut it off, move on before you break my heart because that's the normal seems like, at least for me. Love has been like a splinter that's painful yet hard to get the residue out. You need a whole needle, alcohol, and lighter just to remove it completely from where it punctured through your skin. The residue of the not-so-feel-good part entered my heart and left its speck of share of splinters. No warmth, just ice-cold winters. Love for me has been a stumping of your baby toe on the corner of your bed. Unexpected pain that shoots up your foot and lingers. A possible jam you would think are fracture. Shoot, it might even be broken that it hurts so bad for days. If I could, I would want to love you with all of me. I would want to be vulnerable. I would want to be open. I would want to encourage you, uplift, inspire, and be that safe place for you as I want you to be for me. Share dreams and visions. Lay on your chest, feeling your heartbeat as you stroke my head gently. Breathing you in deeply. Desiring the rhythms of our hearts to sink. Writing you poetry of my devout, sincere, undying, naive love on sheets of paper that will never be seen. Better yet, in my head, dancing on a field of flowers. Oh, I'm definitely a hopeless romantic. Romeo, oh Romeo, wherefore in the heck art thou? But I'm so scared to love you anyhow. So I'll stop being hopeful of love's possibilities. I'm scared because I have so many uncertainties, questions that I just can't figure out the answers to. I'm imagining that you might be scared too. Love for me has been health scares at clinics getting tested for STDs because your husband decided to cheat. Giving birth to twins without their father there to witness their beauty of growing to 4 years old to this very day. And my twin daughter always asking me when will her dad come to pick her up to visit. And me with that silent metaphor of mommy changing the subject because I'm faced with the reality every day. The reality of no time soon, baby girl. Love for me has been a punch in the face with the black eye. of emerged on and going cycle of back and forth before I finally decided to call it quits. Nervous breakdowns, aka manic depression, postpartum depression, psychoaffective psychosis, bipolar. How many diagnoses before one can discover that love caused me to house unwanted demons? Because the hurt was so detrimental that it pierced not only my heart but my soul. Oh, I'm scared to love you. But my question for you is, if you could really give me all of you, what would that feel like? Would our love synchronize in unison, that it outweighs our fears of being scared, giving each other what we truly need and were created for as in the beginning of the creation of Adam and Eve before the fall? If it was within my control and ultimately I could choose, I would love with all that I could. The kind of love that would drive even the thought of me being scared away. But if that love is not returned, then I have every reason to be scared to love you. It would be too risky for my heart. It would be too risky for my soul. So I'm letting go and choosing to let God love on me as my heart and soul are delivered from the false narrative of love or the perception of what I assumed it to be. I'm not stating my story or experience of being scared to love for your sympathy. I'm sharing so you can see my transparency. Because honestly, I'm believing and trusting that God is healing me. I have had my share of trials. I have had my share of struggles, even along my journey with God. But in the midst, I will still choose to believe. Believing and hoping that one day I will no longer be scared to love you. Believing that my heart will be 100% healed with God's true meaning of love. The love that He has for me. As Abba Father goes in my inner being and performs surgery, just as He wove me together in my mama's womb perfectly with His healing love, eliminating my fears to love you, I only want the love that He is in. It's the only love that gives liberty. It's the only love that gives peace.
Bengali ancestors, I call on you. Find you swimming in the rivers of my bones, your spirit's wisdom bathing in my marrow. I am the West Bengal Muslim migrating after the 1947 partition of India. I am the Mukti Bahini fighting in the 1971 war for liberation. I am the rickshaw my grandmother pulled, rescuing Hindi girls from a war not of their making. I am the lost languages, the lost recipes across European dictated borders. I am the bird flying over barbed wire, the smuggled cow lifted by a crane across the fence. I am a refugee craving a spot to call home. I am the August floods, the monsoon rains, the delta silt. Bengali ancestors, what words can you gift me to deepen the magic of your heritage? America's falsified promises rage against the peninsulas of my lungs, sneaking a flag into my heart. I pull it out, shred it, burn it. No flags will take root in my body. I am made of people, not nationalities. Ancestors, we looked at the same sky, conversed with the same moon. Now I dream with you. I dream of a world breathing free without shackles, chains, and police knees. Ancestors, you conjured my body into being, protected me, held me when no one else did. In your eyes, the ones I see reflected in the mirror, I see a future not yet ready, waiting to be born, and I hope I'm making your dreams come true. Thank you. Reading a poem with like no introduction is something I learned from CLI. And I think it's actually something really hard to do because I always want to come up here and then blab for because I'm nervous. But I've been doing this thing where I'm going to go up here and just read the poem and then talk. And I feel like that actually makes your performance way more powerful for whatever reason. And I see other poets doing it. So I thank CLI and Hiram for teaching me that. I'm glad to be here doing this show, Poets on Payroll. I think me and Hiram Hiram were like talking about like just different shows that we could do. And I think this was after we had like a staff appreciation dinner, and then I think Hiram was like, yeah, we should do like, you know, like feature like some of the poets that like are employees, and then the poets on payroll, like the theme came up, and then and this was like in December, and here we are like 4 months later, and I was like, you know what, April is like the perfect month to do this because you know, we're staff, but we're also poets, and I feel like sometimes like people like will forget that, like, you know, I'm like the library manager, and people are like, oh, you're a poet also? I'm like, yeah, yes, I'm definitely a poet too. I'm a poet first, I think. Not that, you know, not that I'm not also, I love being the library manager here too, but you know, poetry is my love. And I'm just really grateful for everything that CLI has taught me, and just the community that has grown out of here. So this next poem is an ode to my Saturday church. Season 8, Tommy and Ravina are in the house, and so I wrote this during CLI, one of my dedication poems. Okay. Rolling out of bed on a Saturday morning to a Zoom room of faces, ready to embrace the pain and power of words. Our experiences whittled into lines, stanzas, and metaphor. Our final sculptures reflecting what we've learned from each other. We dive deep into our lives, providing intimacy doesn't require flesh, only sharing of what makes us, us. We grew away from fear into truth, knowing we'd be watered and would soon bloom. Each Saturday, I showered in poetry. The traumas of my past trickled down my skin, disappearing into the drain. I released what I couldn't let go, knowing we were collectively practicing a resurrection. From September to June, we crafted our voices, fell in love with ourselves. Outside, a pandemic left millions dead. We were the anchors, keeping our boats from tumbling into a Bermudian triangle of depressed isolation. It was about poetry, but it was also about family, coming to church every week. Even when I couldn't hear the angels, only the demons crawling through my bones. I showed up, bearing my authentic soul, without a single regret and plenty of tears. To my Saturday church, our congregation is proof, poetry is heaven on earth.
Yes.
Long Beach never speaks. Here comes a hot poet. Rah, rah.
Urban crops. Stolen from Senegal shores. Boats with no oars, shipping Moors without turbans, sold like urban crops. Being plucked by cops, wet and left to dry in the middle of blacktops, streets, and city sidewalks. My Nafasi pursues rains, chasing the Mara River, sun giver of life. I vibrate on the birth of a wildebeest. Fleet-footed run first, terse lessons. Predators stalk this herd as we follow the clouds through the Serengeti. Instincts heavy. Celestial forces map these courses embedded in our cosmic fires. We cabbage patch over Blue Niles, step over the jaws of crocs, dodging lions, trying to stop our migration. Many are lost, but we cross the Maji to survive. Many fall like sleets, like seeds. Spirits planted in us, they grow, we rise. Stolen from Senegal shores. Boats with no oars, shipping Moors without turbans, sold as urban crops, being plucked by cops, wet and left to dry in the middle of blacktops, streets, and city sidewalks. I pepper poems buried deep in my Waketabu. Yes. The poets listen to the way I riff, committed, sifted by blues crafted on bar stools. What you know about repos and sketchy water holes, pawn shops that never close along with liquor stores, stirring the waters of my troubled soul. Used to be whole, now fragmented, cemented, fused with pain and struggle, coupled between gin and shots, juggled between work and home. My poems are overflowing jars filled with scars, past and present, ancient lessons taught by old folks who spoke to southern trees and the roots and the fruits stolen from Senegal. The heat is rising, the beat is rising, the ceiling between inhaling and exhaling breath. Flatline before the reaper arrives, the flies gather before I open my eyes, because death is my shadow. As we battle shallow court proceedings that decide whether my breathing is legal. I thirst, my freedom, justice, my sovereignty, my birthright, stolen on Senegal shores. Boats without oars, shipping Moors without turbans sold, plucked by cops, left to dry in the middle of blacktops, streets, and city sidewalks.
Come on, Tommy G. Alias Big Six. Come on, my guy.
Let me say that it is an honor to be an instructor. I remember years back, Hiram just kind of threw that seed out there. That's the way he is. He just threw it out there. So one day I want to have a Long Beach chapter. I was like, okay, whatever. And then he invited me to a special, well, I went to most of the graduations, but this one was special. I think it was year 6. Was it year 6? And he said, okay, Tommy, you're going to help me out with this. And I said, okay, cool. So we're pulling stuff from one side of USC to the other side. We're carrying labor and, just, all this heavy stuff. And we get over there, and he says, I got a surprise. And this was the first time that they had printed books at the end of the class. And I think it was Andy's class, right? Yeah. And I remember him setting up the books, and I was like, they got books. They got books, and they don't even know that they got these books. And when he opened the door, he said, we got a surprise for you. Open the door, and you just should have seen their faces. In that moment, I was hooked. Yeah. I said, there's nothing I'd rather do than to help somebody, pursue their dream of writing a book. Because I was crying. He always crying again. I don't mind being emotional, but it was just so powerful to see their faces. Yes. And that feeling, for instructors who haven't had that opportunity yet, when you actually get to perform at one of the students that was in your class at their book signing and remembering all the mornings that you woke up and helped them workshop those pieces, it's so powerful. There's nothing like it. It's nothing more spiritual than that. This is God's work, okay? So with that said, I'll just do a classic. Soothe me, baby. Yeah. Soothe me. Soothe me with your kindness. Oh, your powerful love is so soothing to me. Soothe me, baby. Soothe me. Soothe me with your kindness. Oh, your powerful love is so soothing to me. Soothe me. These blues, they go deep. Like marrow. I used to walk the narrow, now I'm on the wide, hanging with the so-called backsliders. Riders stuck between the church and the juke joint. My mood moves my pinpoint across bar napkins where I anoint with the secrets of my elders. The true welders of these bars, I spit 16 bars. In 16 bars, I bring blues. Without a guitar, I stay in the muddy waters. Trying to feed my daughters as I walk that narrow, and I constantly barter with the devil. Bringing a pebble to this gunfight. I talk to my mom at night. Try as I might, I could never bring her back. I could get a tat, but it won't erase the fact I was a bad son, bad seed, 40 ounces of weed I always seemed to need. Like a fish need water, got that from my father, who I never knew. Bounced when I was too predisposed to these blues, like cheap shoes that cardboard can't fix. Gin and juice mix won't let me forget that we struggled off these tidbits. It makes me live it how the one times treat us like we exhibits. They put us on walls because they want us behind walls. Broke with 3 strikes with nothing but my balls and my word. With these words, I'll elevate beyond curves, singing, soothe me, baby. Soothe me. Soothe me with your kindness. Oh, your powerful love is so soothing to me. I drop verses like I'm running from curses that they say is biblical. That's why I'm mercurial, minds on serial numbers, mugshots and Glocks on blocks that stay hotter than ghost peppers. And educators treat us like lepers, infect us with low self-esteem, twisting King's dreams, but never saying a thing about Malcolm or Huey.
Come on.
I know more about the 13th Louis than I know about Lucy from Africa. Diaspora in my plasma, slave and master concoct to make this poetic blather that I massage in your cerebral like leather.
Okay.
Of the aquatic cadavers, they visit me in my dreams, and they never knew about a swinging low chariot. Inside of us they are buried, resurrected in 65, 2020 and 92. Different year, but the same blues got me singing. Soothe me, baby, soothe me with your kindness. Oh, your powerful love is so soothing to me. Ashe.
So I wanted to read a new poem, if that's cool with you guys. So has anyone ever gone to the family functions or people's houses, and then you sit on the dinner table and they just ask you irrelevant questions that are super inappropriate and why do you gotta point that out, whatever. So this poem is in response to one of those questions. I'd like to invent the greatest unit of measurement to help construct the most appropriate comment in response to theirs when they say, "Have you gained weight?" I will measure my weight by the heaviness of this smile, the number of miles my laughter can travel, or the number of years I spent loving on this body without the need for a scale to affirm me. I will measure myself by how many inches this body can expand to hold all of the stories I have collected inside of this soft belly, for these curves are only windy roads with beautiful views along the numerous chapters I have written and traversed in this lifetime. I will tell them, look at how much weight I have gained from the lessons I have learned, and see how they stick to this honey skin. I will measure myself by the number of days I survived my own depression, by the number of stages I stood on, spirit bare naked and stomach so full of love from being able to tell my story. I will wrap my body in measuring tape and allow my folds and flesh to melt freely. I will love my sag just as much as I love these crooked teeth. I will measure myself by how far these stretch marks paint themselves on this canvas of a body like shooting stars. And I will say, look at all the pounds I have lost from the things I have learned to let go of, this weight shed from the expectations of needing to stay pinned shut in a casket that is supposed to define me. I will allow the weight of the sun to dig its way into my arms. Yes. I will define myself by the amount of lines I wrote that built the ladder out of my own grief, by the days it took to overcome the fear of a cancer scare. I will measure myself by the amount of hours it took to dig my way out of my own grave, and the number of steps it took to come running back to myself, the amount of hurdles I have jumped with these thick thighs, the amount of times I stayed in my own body when everything else left. I've learned to measure myself by the amount of hours I spent untangling the weight of others' judgments so that my truth could breathe free. So when they ask, have you gained weight? I will hand them this book and tell them, how dare you judge me by my bold, beautiful, thick, brown cover. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. Can I read a poem real quick? Is that all right? Yeah. It's like last call right now. People are like, man, I'm trying to go home, but go ahead. I work for CLI too, so,
Can't get fired if you own the company.
That's right. Me and one of the CLI employees, Alex Petunia, we're writing a book together called Adventure Prompts. Sending people to different like naturistic or historic parts of LA, and then to use the history of that place, the nature that surrounds that place to write. And so the last place that I visited that we're planning on putting in the book is a place called Arlington Gardens, and it's up in Pasadena. And so while I was walking around there, I was listening to June Jordan, who's just incredible poet. And those of us who have published books will know a little bit about this experience. So this is called I'm Everything You Need, after listening to June Jordan at Arlington Gardens. After her reading in the neighborhood coffee shop, barely sprinkled with people going in and out at the small table designated for her to sign books, halfway happy to be signing a book and halfway crying, she said to me, "I'm so embarrassed because nobody came, but thank you for coming." And I said to her in the way that I say things, "Ain't I somebody? Ain't I exactly who you came for? Ain't I a human being with two open hands, two open brown ears, two bold and beautiful eyes waiting to take home what it took you 2 years to put together? Ain't I one more beautiful soul waiting patiently for you to change my life? Waiting diligently for you to say something that I will remember and repeat to my grandchildren when they come begging me for wisdom? Ain't I enough man for the beauty and patience of your starving ego? I know you probably wanted this place to be full, but I am full of light and love and energy and a hunger for great sentences. And aren't we a pair, you and I? You giving and I receiving, you pouring out and I taking in? Am I not the true evidence of this ancient idea people say but don't really believe when they say that if you can reach one person, change one life, brighten one person's day, I have done my job? Am I not your job today? This coffee shop could probably seat maybe 40. And if you did your duty, if you filled my belly with enough paragraphs for me to chew on for generations, then this work will endure. And dig this, if I have 6 children, and those children have 6 children, and those children have 3 children, and more, maybe your book will stay on the shelf and get passed around at family barbecues and weddings and funerals. And haven't you reached that goal? Haven't you touched enough people? You should rejoice in the single seat. Clap and shout and dance for the gas I paid and the parking I paid and the clothes I ironed and chose to come to hear you. And if God is in us all, didn't God show up to your book reading? Aren't you reading poems to God? All right. All right. Thank you all for a great night of poetry. Thank you for Pages on Stages. Thank you, people in Zoom land. Thank you, all the poets who touched the mic tonight. Thank you. Have a good night. Appreciate you all. Thank you to all the CLI employees, work study students, interns, volunteers, everybody contributing to this work that we're doing together. You know, us doing this work is a dream come true, and I'm thankful for each one of you. All right. All right. Thank you for coming. Have a good night. Help us put some of these chairs away. All right. Bye.